Well, in recent weeks, we've seen a disturbing trend right across the West. Previously sympathetic Western governments, Europe, Britain, even the States, are beginning to turn against Israel. What is going on? Joining us to discuss this, great thinker, great man. You can see him often on Rita Panahi's show, but he was here in this very studio 6 years ago. Great author, great friend, Douglas Murray. Great to have you back in the Outsiders studio,
Great
Douglas.
to be back.
You're here in Australia. You're appearing tonight at the Enmore Theatre with Josh Zepps. He's another fantastic guy. That'll be absolute must-watch. In uncomfortable conversations, something you've had many of recently. One in particular I want to ask you about what's going on with David Cameron in particular and Israel. Your reporting from both Gaza and Israel in the aftermath of October 7th was superb. Let me just say that. Absolutely ahead of the rest of the world. It was absolutely riveting, and the job you did was absolutely stunning. You were recently in South Africa, so I just want to play a bit of this clip, which was just such great viewing, and you can tell us. So you were arguing about the ethics of, the conflict. Just have a look at this debate.
Our views might differ, but the facts are the facts, and I want to pick you up on something you just did.
I'm interviewing you.
I know, but
Yes.
I think you're uninformed.
No.
So let me just. You are uninformed
Oh,
because
really?
first of all,
Yes.
you didn't say that Egypt is blockading Gaza. Secondly, you claim that Israel.
I'm talking about Israel here, and I want to move.
It's very convenient for
this.
you to mention Israel because you've clearly got an animus here.
Israel is making people more and more increasingly militant. So what is happening at the moment?
Israel's making people more militant.
Is not working.
Do you think that Hamas is making people more militant or not?
Let's go back to the ICJ.
Do you think that Hamas is making
statement.
people more militant or not?
Well, it's a catch-22.
Oh,
isn't
I
it?
see.
So, Douglas, why does the West, so many people in the West, struggle with this moral equivalency? They can't see the difference between the horrors and the evil of October 7th and the necessary self-defence that's taking place in Gaza. Why is the West so conflicted or confused?
Well, I'm not sure that lady in question represents the West. She's a South African journalist who, it turns out, used to work for Al Jazeera. So when she said, she said to me, I used to live in the region, and then I worked out, Doha from the Al Jazeera studios, where even on a clear day you can't see Gaza. So she's not emblematic, but she might be emblematic of a type of person in the West who just, everything's always got to be about the Israeli response. It's never on the initial crime that's committed, you know. These are people who, to coin a phrase, always mix up the firefighter and the fire. You know, Hamas started a war, and there's consequences for starting a war, in my view. And there is no law of war or nature that says you can start a war, massacre innocent civilians in their homes, kill young people at a rave, and then the moment you start to lose the war that results, say, actually, look, let's hang off, guys, let's call it a draw. No such thing. And actually, as one of the members of the War Cabinet in Israel the other day said, Benny Gantz, there is no point in putting out 3/4 of a fire. You either put the fire out or you don't. You don't put out a bit of the fire and then leave it burning. Extinguish the whole thing or there's no point. And in the case of Gaza, extinguishing the whole thing is destroying Hamas completely, making sure they are never again operationally capable.
And yet David Cameron, the British, are already talking about arms embargoes to Israel. David Cameron, British Foreign Minister.
Hang on, Lord Cameron to you and me.
Lord Cameron, I'm sorry, Douglas. And Joe Biden, similar thing around Europe. They're putting a lot of... They seem to basically be saying to Netanyahu, in the case of Chuck Schumer, you leave, which is disgraceful. But in the case of Cameron, don't finish off the job.
Yeah, by the way, I mean, the amazing thing with the Americans pressuring Israel is that the Democrats are pressuring Israel because they believe that the conflict could have a result in dampening down some of the vote, mainly in Minnesota, I think, in November this year. That's pretty weird. I mean, if I don't know, America was at war And, this country, Australia, is a great ally of America. But if your government were to call up the Americans and say, now, look, I know you've got a war on and you're defending your people and everything like that, but our polling's not great in Adelaide, so would you mind stopping? I mean, who would do that? Who would do that? If Benjamin Netanyahu called up David Cameron and said, now, look, we don't agree with British foreign policy on some stuff and our polling's bad in Caesarea, well, what kind of a way is this to act? So the first thing is, the Americans are doing it for some rather cynical and short-term domestic political reasons. But the David Cameron one, Lord Cameron, sorry. The Lord Cameron one is very, very strange. He has, I have to say, always had a pretty negative attitude towards Israel, in my view. In 2006, when he was Conservative Party leader, he said Gaza was a concentration camp. I mean, it's obscene, absolutely obscene. What concentration camp has beach resorts and free trade and workers coming in and out to work in neighbouring? Anyhow, look, I thought at the time, OK, he's an ignoramus. He'll learn, he'll grow up. It turns out that, we're in this situation now. He's been brought back as foreign minister by Rishi Sunak, who needs some stabilisers on his rather unstable tricycle. and here he is saying all these things to Israel about how it should behave. And I have a pretty straightforward one to this, which is I want to hear not very much from a British Foreign Secretary giving advice to Israel, as long as the Foreign Office in Britain continues to have utterly insane views towards Israel. And I'll give you one very quickly if I can. The Golan Heights, as you know, strategically incredibly important, captured by Israel 50 years ago, part of Israel, one of the most beautiful bits and one of the most advantageous bits for any enemy of Israel to be on. The official government policy of Britain is that is occupied territory. Now, look, the only person you could give the Golan Heights to is Bashar al-Assad, who's killed about 700,000 Muslims in Syria in the last decade. It's true that maybe he needs a little bit more ground, in his view, to kill people on, but the idea the British Foreign Secretary holds to a view that the Golan Heights should be given to the Assad regime of Syria is, in my view, insane. And until the British Foreign Office sorts out things like that, I treat all the advice they give with more than a pinch of salt.